Yesterday there was a power shortage. Why was there a power shortage? Why was there a power shortage yesterday? Because God wanted there to be a power shortage. And you could make it dramatic or whatever and say it's because of the bombs and the fact is the bombs are falling. Yesterday there was like I think 5 times everybody had to run to the bomb shelters. I know I've said it a lot of times, but I don't go to the bomb shelters. I don't go. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said Israel is the safest place in the world, and Kfar Chabad is the safest place in Israel. And so, even though there have been a few tragedies, and not trying to minimize those tragedies, but you have to remember that the Iranians they've been planning this for a long time, and they're really good at it. They're really good at killing people and destroying things. So they made these really, really good bombs and rockets that they shoot, and the rockets they divide up if they're hit by an anti-rocket rocket. So they divide up and into like 20 rockets. So you have to knock all those. I don't know exactly how we do it, but we do it. And so every night you hear boom, and then boom, 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 right? And the sirens are blazing, and everyone's running, and the kids are running to the to the bomb shelters. So, and of course, nobody blames Iran. Come on, Iranians, they just killing 40,000 people in the streets of their own people, but things happen. Stuff happens. That's it. Who's at fault? The Jews. How this figures out, I don't know. Well, I mean, okay, I don't know. Maybe they're gonna start saying the Iranians, they're really Israelis in disguise. They moved to Iran. You can see they got beards, right? These people. The Iranians are really Israelis, and they're shooting at themselves. I mean, if it wasn't, my brothers and sisters, I would laugh also, but there's a lot of people, very serious people, they're saying that, October the 7th, it was the Israeli army, they killed, as though, Hamas never did anything bad. They only did good things. They win all these Nobel Prizes, and they're this, and Hamas, and everybody seems to blame them, Why is everybody always picking on me? Remember the song? The Hamas, they're just good guys. What are you talking about? Yeah, they're good guys. Hezbollah, they're just freedom fighters. Come on, right? Remember the song? Remember? Why is everybody always picking on me? Charlie Brown. Remember? And they kill and they murder, they rape and they burn, they destroy, they prepare tunnels, thousands of tunnels together. The whole world says, no, they are David and the Jews are Goliath. Okay, let's go. I'm sorry to get into that, but it's just so unfortunately ludicrous. I mean, God has been protecting us from them. And there's a lot of Israelis you should know. Listen, how did this whole business start? The Israelis gave them the land. They gave them Gaza. They don't want to get them out. The Israelis, they broke in, they killed people. The Israelis don't want to evict them. Huh? All right. It's just the insanity is just beyond belief. Makes no sense. You got a squatter moves into your house. You say, "Oh yeah, you can take the take the kitchen and the bathroom. Just leave me the other bathroom, and leave me the one. The house is yours. What are you giving it away for?" And he starts making noises and shooting guns and everything like that. That's okay. Just try to keep it down if you can. That's what we did. We took these people into Israel. They're shooting their kids, and the Israeli government doesn't want to really deal with it. Terrorists? What terrorists? There's terrorists. They just killed 1,200 people. Those terrorists. Listen. Okay, God have mercy on us. Here we go. Okay, so let's go. What are we talking about here? We are talking about, did I record the So the Rebbe asked the question, which is a question asked by the Mordechai, which Mordechai is Rabbi Mordechai Hillel, that lived about 800 years ago. He was one of the main commentaries on the Talmud, and he said that why don't we have 4 matzahs? Why only 4 cups of wine? Why not 4 matzot as well? because the four cups of wine that we drink correspond to four different terms of redemption, which are used near the beginning of the book of Exodus, that God says to Moses that he will use to take the Jews out of Egypt. Hotzeti, Hitzalti, Lekachti. I will take the Jews out of Egypt. Four languages of redemption. And so the matzot, they also represent redemption. So why don't we have four matzot? So the Rebbe said there's different answers that are given, but the Rebbe said, I want to give my answer. By the first three expressions of redemption, it says what God is going to do. And on the last one, it says what the Jews are supposed to do. You're going to be my people. My people. That's what you have to do. So matzah represents what God did. God took the Jews out of Egypt. God did it all. That's the first three expressions of redemption. The last one is what you have to do, Jews, and you doing it, that depends on your being happy. You have to come from below to above. That represents wine. So there's 4 cups of wine because God did take us out of Egypt, but the 4th cup of wine represents that we're doing it. What we're doing are from our part, from below to above. That's what wine is. It arouses us from below to above, which is not the case. The matzah is talking about what God did from above. Okay. That's what we said over here. So therefore, let's make this bigger. I'm not going to do it to the next page. One second. Therefore, okay, that's what I just finished saying. Okay, but Ba'omek Yoter, a little bit deeper, we can also say that that's an interconnection between matzah, the 3 matzot, and the cups of wine to the number 3 and the number 4. And the number 3 and the number 4. The difference between the number 3 and the number 4, Gimel and Daled, is we can see from what the rabbis say regarding the letters Gimel and Daled. Gimel means to give. Daled means poor. Gimel Daled means to give to the poor. Thus, this means Gimel, it hints at giving, and Daled is talking about receiving. This is also brought in as the number 3 matzot, and the number 4. The number 4 is hashpa, is 3 is giving over, via state, like it says, noch in the mashpia, this is giving over as it is in the giver. This is only 3 levels. There's the rich person and the poor person. Let's say even more, the teacher and the pupil. That's even better. The teacher and the pupil. The teacher is the giver, and the pupil is the receiver. The teacher wants that the student should be aroused and should join him. But in the beginning, the teacher is the teacher. He has the knowledge, right? Like the rich person and the poor person. The rich person is rich in himself. And so let's say, the teacher, he has 3 levels. The rich person, the one who's giving. This is the time when the giving comes to the receiver. Then there's the 4th level. What does it mean? Shetach u'kli makabel. Then there's the receiver. Welches früher gewesen behelem in the hashpa. Right? The poor person and the rich person. The rich person has the money, and he's got the money. That's something like chachma bina dat. It's concealed. That's like intellect. The teacher has intellect. That's in his mind. And the intellect can be divided into chachma bina dat. The pupil is ignorant. He doesn't know anything. When it comes from the teacher to the pupil, then there's added another level. Another level to the teacher. The teacher gives over to the person, the poor person, the rich person gives over to the poor person, the rich person adds something onto himself. And also what the revelation of his money to help others, not just to help himself. The teacher teaches children it's more fulfilling than if he's just a genius in himself. Like, for instance, and that's compared to the letters. One second. What am I doing here? Okay, that's like the letters, the letters that receive from intellect. Yeder seichel, every idea has its letters, how they are in the mind. Aber in them, davar seichel, but that's when they're only ideas before it comes out to another person. Oh, excuse me. Is nach eder, even before a person grasps what it is in his mind. Is sein in the osias nit nikar. Before you have an idea, but before you actually can, how do you say, articulate that idea in your mind, so to speak, there's no letters. Oh, I think I got an idea. As herzich the token, then you can feel the content of the intellect. But when when the person himself starts to order in his mind the ideas that are in his mind, then it says, give me a second. Let me think. As soon as you start thinking, then it comes into letters. This is one of the explanations, the difference between Gimel and Daled. Gimel, why there's also 3 fathers of Judaism and 4 mothers of Judaism. The fathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the mothers are 4. 4. Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Why? Because the fathers, they're called father, and the mother is the term father and mother. This is connected with the idea of the giver and the receiver. Giving birth to children and from the I'm sorry, giving birth to children, one of the differences between them is the seed of birth comes from the father. From the seed of the father comes the limbs of the child, but it's very, very concealed. But the mother, she brings them to be revealed. She brings a total child. Mitzad them on from the father, he's the one that gives over. He's like the letter Gimel. That's like the 3 matzot. 3, like the 3 fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're called fathers. By the father, all the details of the child are concealed. The child, they're not in a tzur, they're not revealed. They're gilui, the revelation of the seed of the father, the potential seed of the father, only comes when it is in the seed is put into the mother. And that's why the Jewish people, before they left Egypt, what God did, they were in the level of 3. That's the level of 3 matzot. That's the Jewish people before they were born, before they got out of Egypt, before they received the Torah. That's the number 3. But the 4 cups of wine, that is when the Jewish people received the Torah, they became a full-fledged partners with God. They became, so to speak, an independent, like a baby becomes separate from the parents. Okay, so therefore, the number 3, that shows what God did. That's the thing of the matzah. Therefore, matzah has no taste to it. It has no personality. That corresponds to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that they're the ones that give over. They're the mashpia, they're the fathers. They come from these 3 levels we said, like before, chachma, bina, dat, whatever preparatory levels of revelation. Preparing, like the Jewish people when they were still in Egypt. That's the 3 matzot which is not the case. The mothers, that's the receivers, they are the number 4. They're number 4. Why? Because the number 4, that indicates already revelation, giving and becoming a separate entity. Similarly, it's also the same thing with going out of Egypt. When the Jews got out of Egypt, here we go. Similarly, also the Jews getting out of Egypt. In the redemption, when the Jewish people got out of Egypt, which that came from above to below. And that's the giver, that's God, that's the number 3 we said. Then it was only potential. The whole entire redemption of the Jewish people, getting out of Egypt, receiving the Torah, going into Israel, that was all in potential. Also the redemption itself, when the Jewish people got out of Egypt, how it came afterwards, this is only just potential. The revelation of it came in Mount Sinai. So therefore, from the time the Jewish people got out of Egypt until they reached Sinai, so everything was like in the level of father. It was like the seed. Then everything was concealed. That's one of the difference between matzah and the 4 cups of wine. That we have to remember, going out of Egypt and freedom, that comes from before the Jews received the written Torah, that's called Moser Avicha. And that's what it says in Mishle, is called the teachings of your father. That's the giver. From the Jewish people leaving Egypt until they received the Torah, everything was God. God did everything. He took them out. He destroyed the Egyptians. He split the sea. He gave them bread from heaven, water from a rock. God protected them. God did everything. That's the 3 matzot. That stresses the giver. Gimel is giver. That stresses how things come from God. And therefore, it says when this is by means of eating matzah, and also the number 3, because God is the giver. He's the teacher, if you want to call it. He's the rich one. And is included, therefore, this is how everything is included inside of the teacher still, inside of the rich man. That's only the number 3, like we said before, like Chachma, Bin, and Dat, the 3 levels. That's what's called the written Torah. Everything is just very, very small, like the seed of the Father. You can't really say, if you read the Bible, the Jewish Bible, you can't really get any laws out of the Jewish Bible. You think you can, but you can't. You can't take anything at face value, what it says in the Torah. All is just like shorthand. It has to be explained by the rabbis. But even the 10 commandments, don't kill, maybe it means don't kill bacteria. You have to understand what it means. So the written Torah, that's like the seed. And when the Jewish people, the wise men, the men with the Tanaim, the Amoraim, in the oral Torah, that's what's called the Torah of your mother. It's a sentence in Proverbs. It says, don't leave the Torah of your father and the Torah of your mother. The Torah of your father, that's the written Torah. And the Torah of your mother, that's how it develops, how it comes out to be birth, actually commandments. That's the receiver. That's from the Jewish people. This adds something and fixes, as there's Zecher leGeula v'Cherus. This is not only did we get out of Egypt, we got out of Egypt, but going from Egypt, now we're going to fixing up the world by means of the Torah. With the written Torah, you can't fix up the world. You don't even know what it means. That's all God's doing. God took us out of Egypt. God did everything. God gave us the Torah, the written Torah. But afterwards, when the Jewish people received the Torah and they started to understand it, Moses explained it to them, Zayin and Ofen, this is in a way of that we can understand that the redemption is to us as for the Jews. And the Rebbe, and therefore it comes in a way of shtias kot yain. There comes by drinking wine, which wine has a taste, like the Talmud, it gives a taste to the Torah. And number 2, it's in the number from 4. And we received the 3 aspects of God. And now we're utilizing them. The explanation that we said before, the reason we have 3 matzot, this also gives an explanation in another thing which is very surprising regarding matzah. What's the law of matzah? Here's an interesting law. Okay, so let's just explain something a little bit over here. We're saying that when the Jews were in Egypt, God was the main player in the whole thing. God gave everything, like the seed of the Father. The seed of the Father. Until they received the Torah, that still is in the category of the seed of the Father. Everything is contained inside of it, but nothing was revealed. Right? Even when the Jews got the Torah, they didn't really understand what it was until Moses explained it to them. So that's like the seed of the Father. And that corresponds to the matzah. That's what God does. So here we have an interesting law about matzah. What's the law of the matzah? That matzah, you don't have to taste the matzah, but it has to have a taste. Listen to the law. Interesting law. That's like the seed of the Father. It doesn't have to manifest itself as a child, but it has to have the child inside of it. The same thing with the Torah. The Torah doesn't have to manifest its reasons, but it has to have the reason inside of it. That's the 3 matzah, chachma, bin, and dat. Here it goes. The law is that if you swallow matzah, you don't chew it up. You don't swallow it. Let's say you take the matzah and you grind it up, however, and you open up your mouth, you hold it back, and somebody just stuffs it into your throat. Right? Bypasses your teeth, your tongue, your palate. You swallow it, you've done the commandment. So you don't have to have, there's no obligation in matzah that you have to feel the taste of the matzah. When oib noch, I'm sorry, when oib nor is given, as long as you just eat the matzah, even just if you just swallow it, somebody just stuffs it down into your throat, then you've done the obligation, which is not the case morer. In the time of the Holy Temple, when they had the Passover offering, it was a commandment from the Torah to eat more. Now it's not a commandment from the Torah, but it's a commandment from the rabbis. So that commandment from the rabbis to eat more, we even make a blessing on it. Eat more bitter herbs, you have to taste it. Yargish tam rirus, you have to taste the bitterness of it. Good. So matzah doesn't have to have a taste, and more has to have a taste, right? Not exactly. No. Matzah, you don't have to feel the taste. And more, you do have to feel the taste. But matzah itself has to have a taste. We'll see. But the idach, on the other hand, the law is that if you boil the matzah, oder afilu mit a matzah was hat sich gewähnt in mei peros. Let's say you take matzah and you soak it in fruit juice. Now, if you soak matzah in water, you might have a problem. A lot of the Jews are careful what they call gebrachs. But in any case, if there happens to be, which is a chance 1 in a million, but 1 in a million is forbidden. Oh, see, here we go. See, every day we get 5 or 6 of those. That's the bombs. The bombs are going. That's the warning that there's going to be a warning. Okay, if you take matzah and you put it in water, maybe it could be there's a little bit of flour in there. But if you take matzah and put it into fruit juice, as fruit juice does not make the matzah. I say chometz, or fruit juice. So let's say you take the matzah and you soak it into fruit juice, right? So it says even though that you don't have to taste the matzah, but the matzah has to have a taste in itself. If you wreck up the taste of the matzah so that the matzah itself doesn't have a taste, in other words, there is no taste of matzah there, so you have not done the commandment. If you eat it, then there's no commandment. Says the Rebbe, it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of people ask the question. It says you don't have to taste the matzah. So what do we care if you wreck up the taste or you don't wreck up the taste? What do we care? You don't have to taste it. Why do we care? Vibal, because as by achilat matzah, by eating matzah, further is demanded. You do not need to taste the matzah at all. You can just stuff it down your throat and bypass your tongue and your palate and everything. So if so, why is it that the matzah itself has to have a taste at all? What's wrong with taking matzah and soaking it into fruit juice? I'll give you an example. For instance, let's say old people, sometimes old people, they don't have any teeth. That's what people doesn't have any teeth. They can't chew up the matzah. So what do? I gotta take fruit juice, soak the matzah in fruit juice. Now it's easy to do. No good. Why is it no good? Because the matzah loses its taste. But one second, you just finished telling me you don't have to taste the matzah. It says you don't have to taste it, but it has to have a taste. Why? The explanation, the inner explanation is this, like we just finished saying, was by mitzvahs, achilas matzah, the commandment of eating matzah, it doesn't have to be a taste that comes out. The person doesn't have to taste the taste. By the Yidden, by the Jews, the going out of Egypt, the going out of Egypt was his gekumen, which came from God. This was a thing, velcha zeyaben nit atam. The Jewish people were taken out of Egypt, and they didn't really even appreciate it. And they didn't have to appreciate it. They didn't have to appreciate it. But there had to be godliness there. It had to be there. The Rebbe, therefore, is blois muchrach achilas matzah. The Jewish people were taken out of Egypt by God himself. God contains all the secrets, all the tastes, and the Jewish people didn't have to taste it. But there had to be God. There had to be, the taste had to be there. In a way that all you have to do is just eat the matzah in a way that the matzah becomes flesh and blood, like part of yourself. It digests. That the redemption has to be mit etzem anigal, has to be mit etzem. You just have the Jews are taken out of Egypt. They don't have to know what a Jew is. They don't have to know what God is. Just the fact that God took them out of Egypt. That's all. But lav davka as chich ochel itom. But the Jewish people didn't have to understand anything. Lav davka as erzol feeling. You don't have to taste and feel the matzah. Matzah means God takes you out of Egypt, even if you don't understand that, you don't know what it's talking about. You don't want to know what a Jew means. You don't know anything. God takes you out of Egypt. That's the way it was when the Jews got out. You don't have to taste it, but there has to be a taste in the matzah. But because of the matzah itself, the commandment of God, excuse me, makes just the commandment of God, that's what makes the matzah into matzah. Because of, from our point of view, we don't have to taste it. But from God's point of view, is in the geula, the redemption has to be potential to reveal that the Jewish people should be redeemed, and they should be a totally different people than anyone else. Take the Jewish people out of the impurity of Egypt. So by God, everything was there in potential, but it was in God. That's the three matzahs. The three matzahs don't have to, you don't have to taste the matzah, but the taste has to be in the matzah itself. The same thing, God, it contains inside, so to speak, all of the reasons, all of the good that's going to come, all of the Torah is going to be there, but it doesn't have to be revealed to the Jewish people. That's the matzah. It doesn't have any taste that we taste, but it has to be a taste that is there. And the Rebbe, so therefore, the chifza, and the thing itself, the matzah itself, has to have the taste of matzah itself, because the future redemption was given, let's say, does kedar freer haben, you have to have the power to taste it. It has to be there in potential. Oh, here we go. But in actuality, but when was the taste given that the Jews felt it? That was given after the Torah was given. When the Torah was given, then the Jews were able to feel it. Nevertheless, You can only fulfill the commandment of, even though you don't have to taste it, but there has to be a taste there. You cannot wreck up the taste of matzah and itself and fulfill your obligation. This means as the taste, which is inside of the matzah, is durach ois tam matzah. That the matzah has to have a taste, but it doesn't have to have any pleasure in it. Matzah. That's like doing the commandments because God commands. You don't understand that that's going out of Egypt. But afterwards, that's not enough. Then afterwards, when the commandments come down, spiegelt sich up in avodas adam, when it comes down to a person and it comes down to us, then we have to have a taste and we have to have pleasure. You have to have the pleasure in doing the commandments. You have to have the pleasure in doing what God wants. Not just because we're just unquestioningly doing what God wants. That's good, but it's not enough. After the Torah is given, we have to have pleasure in it as well. That's the idea of the wine. Then it has to be Kabbalat all. We do what God wants, but we do it with a pleasure, with happiness. And that's the idea of the receiver of the 4 cups of wine. So the 3 matzot, that represents the essence, connection, and belief in the Creator. But the wine shows how we get pleasure from it, how we ourselves get excited, and we become partners from our point of view, from below to above, like wine with the Creator of the universe. That's why you have 3 matzahs talk about getting out of Egypt, and 4 cups of wine talk about utilizing that in order to serve the Creator. I don't know if you can hear the bombs going off here. You hear it? Everybody else is in the bomb shelters. Okay, here we go. Well, there'll be a story soon.